Pastor Jones, that was one of my dad's favorite songs that we would sing on Monday night during our time of family devotions. And so many of these songs are etched deep in the memories and the souls of those of us who've been singing them for many years. And it's great to be able to share those with our young people and the future generations. If you have a Bible, let's turn to Luke 12. Just briefly tonight, we want to look at a story and contrast it with the story that probably all of us are familiar with of 400 years ago in 1621 when the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag Native Americans shared this autumn harvest feast that we would later refer to as the first Thanksgiving. And Governor Bradford's assistant, Edward Winslow, would write, "The Pilgrims thought it would be great ingratitude not to thank God publicly for his deliverance. And so another solemn day was set apart wherein we returned glory and honor and praise with all thanksgiving to our good God." So that's a story that we're familiar with. Some of the historic details have been debated, but essentially that is what we know of as the origin of the holiday that we call Thanksgiving. Now let's compare that to another person who was blessed with a bountiful harvest in Luke 12:15. And this is a fictional story. It's a parable that Jesus tells. Look with me at verse 15 of Luke chapter 12. It says, "And he, Jesus, said unto them." This is a huge crowd. Verse 12 calls it a crowd. Verse 1 says that it was thousands of people who had gathered together there. He says, "Take heed and beware of covetousness." Now, this is a sin that we're never tempted by as Americans, right? We're not tempted to covet, for a man's life consists not in the abundance of things which he possesses. It's so easy for us to be tempted to find our identity in the car that we drive, or the clothes that we wear, or the phone that we carry, or the neighborhood that we live in, or the abundance of things that we possess. And he spake, Jesus tells them a parable saying, "The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully." You say, okay, now who is the one that caused that ground to bring forth this bumper crop? Well, Paul tells the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 3 that one farmer can plant a seed and another farmer can irrigate that seeded field, but who is the one that brings the increase? God brings the increase. That's what the Pilgrims were recognizing. Based on Edward Winslow's testimony, they were recognizing God is the one who's given us this bountiful harvest. He is the one to whom we should give thanks. But what does this rich farmer do when he looks at God's blessing, he looks at this bumper crop, he actually gives himself the credit. Look at verse 17. "And he thought within," look at how many references to self we see in the next couple of verses. "He thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits." God causes his land to produce a bumper crop. This farmer has an I problem. Instead of thanking God for the harvest, like the Pilgrims, or sharing it, the extra, with his neighbors, verse 18, "And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will bestow all my fruits and my goods." He says, I'm not going to give, I'm going to hoard. I'm not going to share, I'm going to get richer. Verse 19, "And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have much goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry." Those are not bad things. We've seen that refrain over and over in Ecclesiastes, that God gives us good gifts, to eat good food, to drink good drink, to be merry, to enjoy the fellowship that we have with our friends and our family members. But what does the farmer say to himself? He says to soul, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry." What does God say to him? "No, you won't." Verse 20, "But God said unto him, You fool," just like we saw in Ecclesiastes this morning, "This night your soul shall be required of you. Then who shall these things be which you've provided?" So the foolish farmer, finds out the same lesson that Solomon was teaching in Ecclesiastes. The path of the fool, the person who thinks he's the center of the universe, will ultimately lead to destruction. And again, it's tragic that so many Americans are following the example of this farmer, not of the pilgrims, of thinking the world revolves around me, not God. I need to hoard my wealth, not give it to others. Verse 21, so is he that lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. So as we come to the end of another year that has posed many challenges to many of us, even in our church family, certainly to our nation and to our church family, but it has also been a year rich in blessing. Will we have a heart of thanksgiving that's rich toward God with all he's blessed us with this year? Will we help those who are in need, or will we hoard our money and be like this foolish farmer? It was exciting. I think the deacons may still be in the deacons meeting, but we were talking about, just as we prepare for the annual business meeting, how the Lord has blessed. The giving this year has been almost 6 figures over budget. The spending and our expenses so far have been almost $100,000 under budget. And so we're projecting a couple $100,000 to the good for the year. And so just as we did for the first time last year, we said we'll take 10% of that year-end giving of how the Lord has blessed us over and above our needs and give it to missions. Just a few minutes ago, we voted to do 20%. So Lord willing, we'll already have $40,000 hopefully by the end of the year as year-end gifts come in, much more than that. And then the beginning of our year, we have our missions conference, and so that's an opportunity for us to give to the missions conference offering. And what a wonderful thing it would be to have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 already in the plate, as it were, for the missions conference offering. And there are many needs that our missionaries have, some exciting opportunities that we have to be able to give toward. And so as we think about the end of the year, and especially what even our nation recognizes and we celebrate of Thanksgiving, let's not focus on ourselves. It's so easy to spend much of Thanksgiving Day reading the Black Friday ads, and we're already thinking about what we're going to buy for ourselves the next day. But instead, spend your Thanksgiving, and this is what we want to do even the rest of this hour, recounting God's blessings, how he has blessed you spiritually, how he's blessed you physically, how he's blessed you financially, and then thinking of ways you can share, whatever that is. And for some families, this year has been a year of financial hardship. And if you have needs that you can share with your deacon, that we can help give to from the benevolence fund, but maybe you have opportunities to give of your time or give of your talent to the church. We have a great committee right now that's working on a project, a building project for the church, and I was talking to some of the members and saying we really have a dream team of folks on this committee who have all this experience and all of this gifting from God that they are donating voluntarily to the church. It's exciting. There are a number of older folks in our church who are shut in. I spent over an hour with a man in our church who has lung cancer. He's been battling things that don't even allow him, because of the oxygen tank, to come to church regularly. And he was saying, I appreciate the live stream, that connection that I feel to be able to watch the worship, but I also appreciate Morningsiders, I think many of them from his Sunday school class, who visit him, who come and stop in and spend time with him. As we think about this Thanksgiving, how can we be more like the pilgrims and less like the rich farmer? And I appreciate that this is something that not only do we have older folks in the church, maybe who are retired, who give of their time, but we have a growing group of young adults in our Pursuit class, most of them in their 20s, their early 30s, who have said, I'm going to give up vacation days, I'm going to give up money, and at that stage of life, I remember how important it was to be saving as you're planning to start a family, you're planning the beginning of your life, but who've said, and I'm going to give up time to go on a mission trip to help our church planters in Reno, Nevada. And so as we're rejoicing with this Hope for Reno team, all of whom are supported by the church, next year we're hoping to support their church as well as each of the 4 church planters. But it's been exciting to see pursue young adults say, we want to take our time and our finances and our vacation days to go and invest those in this church plant in Reno, Nevada. So this time they're going to come and give a report praising God for what he's doing in Reno.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And it was a really wonderful time that we had in Reno. And as Pastor said, those of us who went on this trip, and there are so many more in our class who share this same passion, they just weren't able to go on the trip. But we really do have a passion for what God is doing in Reno, Nevada. It is so exciting to see the church there, and that was part of what we wanted to do when we went out there, was to just see what God is doing in Reno, to see the way that he's working in people's lives, and to see the way that this church is being a light in that community. And our goal with going was to be an encouragement to the church planters there in Reno. It was so exciting to see their joy and their excitement in what they're doing there in Reno and the way that they're investing their lives. And some of these other people from our team are going to share more about that, so I won't steal all of their thunder. But we were very thankful to go, and we are super thankful to Morningside for their support in financially, giving us a little bit of money to help us go out there. That was a huge blessing, as well as for your prayers, because that was really what made a huge difference with us being there, was knowing that you guys were back here praying for us and supporting us that way. That meant a lot to us. So our team, as we were out there, we were gone from October 29th to November 2nd, so it was a pretty short trip, basically a long weekend trip for this time out in Reno. And our team was myself and Megan Ingersoll, Morgan McCarty, Drew Bullock, Lance Griffith, Claire DeNeergaard, Ryan Loip, and then Brittany Butler flew in from New Jersey as she's living up there now. So she flew out to join us on the trip, and we had a wonderful time together. And I'm going to turn it over to Drew now, and he's going to share with you some specifics of what we did.
Hi guys, so it was actually a really good trip, and I thought I'd share some things that we did when we were on the way to Reno. So we got here at Morningside at 6 o'clock just to get our cars here, and then thankfully the McCartys took us to the airport, and we got through security, and we left Greenville at 8 o'clock, and we got there at Reno at midnight at their time. Which is like 3 o'clock in the morning here. So it was quite a trip. So, and then we got our place to stay, and so the next morning, we were able to see the Wesses and be able to help them with a washer and dryer because they wanted to install it, but they couldn't have anybody to help them install it. So they asked us if we could install it for them, and it was a great opportunity, and they paid us back with breakfast, which is amazing, and it was very yummy. And after that, we were able to play with their four-wheeler and be able to hang out and see the mountain views and four-wheeling in the desert, which is actually pretty cool. And then after that, we got to go to Lake Tahoe and be able to see the amazing creation that God has, and like to be able to drive around and see the beautiful sunset over at Lake Tahoe. And it was a great opportunity. And then we finished our day by going home and getting some sleep. And then Sunday morning, we headed over to the Living Hope Church, which was at the McKinley Art and Culture Center. And so we got to help them set it up because everything that they owned was in a trailer. And so we got to get everything out of the trailer and get all the chairs set up and to be able to get the nursery ready in the lobby for those that have kids. And we also gave them a special by singing Complete in Thee, which was very, very good. And then after that, some of the girls went over and helped with the children nursery, and Pastor Andy Glazer spoke on the Living Hope during suffering. And 1 Peter 1, 6 through 10. And so that was pretty much what we've done. We've been serving for those in Reno. Now I'm going to turn it over to Morgan McCarty.
Hi, I'm Morgan. We were so excited to be able to go on this trip. I was actually out there in July with the teens before they had launched their first official launch. So it was really fun to be with them then when they were kind of prepping, and then to come back after they had 2 really awesome Sundays to start off officially. I think they had over 100 people at each service. So we loved being out there. One story that reminded me of, which I hadn't planned to share, but I don't know if Miss Tanya West is here, but she had asked us to take like 6 candles out to Miss Tammy West. I think they were from Aldi, but Miss Tammy West loved these candles, and so she's like, please fly these to me. So we had these glass candles all packed in our carry-ons, which was pretty tight, and every single person that had a candle, except for Megan was pre-checked, got their bag pulled and searched, and they were looking at the candles like they had like some sort of contraband in them. And I was like, oh, this is my fault, because I was the one who had handed everyone's candles off to them. But I don't see Miss Tanya West, but it was very funny. That was definitely an unexpected start. I don't know if Megan's gonna mention our unexpected end to the trip either. I'll leave that for her. But I just wanted to share one experience. Obviously, it was a super encouraging trip. We planned it was 2.5 days, so we were like, we probably aren't even gonna have any energy after we got off work Friday, left Friday night. We're like, we're probably not gonna be able to be a blessing, but we'll try, and hopefully we'll like be able to stay awake. And I really do feel like the prayers of just the prayers of you guys really lifted us up. We were able to just go, and try to give all that we could in the short time we were there. So very thankful for that. But just one experience I wanted to share with you guys that was really encouraging to my heart. We were in the service. There's a few pictures up there. I was in the nursery, and there was a dad that came back with his 2 daughters. He was alone with them, and so he came back. They were using the restroom, and I had very limited experience, interactions with him, but he didn't seem like he had much knowledge of the gospel. He seemed like he was just there to learn. And I heard him say to them, hey guys, let's hurry in the bathroom. I want to get back in there and hear what the pastor's saying. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't really know him. I was just focusing on the crying babies. But it kind of just stuck in my mind. And then in the second service, we were with the kiddos, the older kids. He came back with his 2 daughters to the kids program. Because he wanted to see what was going on. And he's like, if I come in here with you guys, maybe next week you can come alone so that I can be in there and hear what they're saying to the adults. And it was just really cool. Pastor Wes pegged him, as he does. I think they are there's 4 pastors, which is great because they see anybody who's new and beeline towards them. But he was able to come up to him and really connect with him, give him contact info, and I think they're really going to try to pursue him and his family. But just to see, Reno is so dark. You see that when you walk off the plane and you see the slots and in the casinos and on the streets where there's so much homelessness, and it's just so hopeless anywhere you walk in the city. And it's just cool to see that this church is a beacon of hope with passionate leaders who are encouraged and just excited to reach the community, and then to see that there's members of the community that are seeking. So we were just really encouraged to see what the Lord's doing there, and so thankful that we got to go and just be a small encouragement to them.
Hello, I'm Lance. Also got to go on this trip. It's really hard to express everything you learn and you do in 3 days. It doesn't seem like a long time, but being out there, heading out there was, well, terrifying for one, because I'd never been there. And all we knew is that it was the second most unchurched city in America. So we knew that there weren't going to be very many Christians, at least as far as people that we met just out on the street. We got off the plane, as Morgan mentioned, and it was 20 feet before the first slot machines, and they were just lined up. And it was actually unusually hot in the airport because they had so many gambling machines running that it was just that many computers just kept it warm and hot in there. And going out into the city, there was just homeless people randomly just on a bicycle with a buggy, with a backpack. We went to In-N-Out Burger, and I was in the car, and 2 homeless people got in a fight in front of my car. I didn't know. I wanted to talk to them, but I didn't want to just jump out of a vehicle right there in front of them. Thought that might be odd. But I could look across the highway and see these other people, and they're just there, and everything they had was in a backpack. And I saw this one girl, and she she couldn't sit still. She didn't have anything, and I think it's because maybe she didn't have any peace in her heart, in her life, because she couldn't stop moving. She'd pace back and forth down the street. She'd go fold something, pull it out of her backpack, put it right back, turn around, walk back somewhere else. And to see the need there, it'd tear your heart out, because how could you reach all of these people? When we walked to downtown. We thought we'd go check out the Reno sign. It's a picture you see. We thought we'd go see it, but we couldn't park close to it. So we went and we parked in like a construction place because it was open, and we started to walk the best we could to find it. And we went to the river, which is really gorgeous, especially in the fall. So all the colors were amazing. And we're walking down the river, and the people began to get sketchier and sketchier. We crossed a bridge, and I saw a guy, and he looked aimless. He wasn't really going anywhere, so I thought, perfect guy to witness to. He's got time. So I stopped to talk to him, and he was carrying a basketball bag. He'd been playing basketball, and I began to tell him, we were just visiting. We flew in on a missions trip, and we went to church this morning, and he wasn't really registering very much. He was, smiling kind of and talking to me, but not really. And I realized the guy was so high on drugs, he was on another planet, like no real emotional reaction. So I was doing my best to witness to him. And beside me, there was a lady, 30s or 40s, and she was getting angry and getting loud, and I didn't know what was going on. So I turned to see who she was talking to, and she was talking to a tree. And so I wasn't sure what to do, because I was the last person in our group, and my group had kept going. They didn't know that I was talking, and I didn't know where they were, because I could see maybe about 200 feet down the sidewalk, and they had disappeared. So I didn't know what to do. I did my best to share the gospel, but I needed to keep going. So I went on down the street, caught up with the group. Thankfully, didn't hold them up too much. And, walking past all those people, right beside them were these massive casino joints with, all these flashing lights. And outside are these people that are just hollow and empty. And you can smell marijuana just wafting down the street. And there are people out there. There was an old guy just sitting there in a blanket. And he was muttering, asking for tips and stuff. But he wasn't making eye contact. He was just kind of staring up at nothing. And it was heartrending to see the need that's out there. I'm so glad that there are people willing to leave their homes and to go out there and live there to reach those people and make a difference in their lives. So it was thrilling to be a part of that, to go out there and see that.
Well, hello, I'm Megan Ingersoll, and I also had the opportunity to go to Reno. And I wanted to read a passage that came to mind as I was thinking about wrapping up our opportunity to share with you all this evening, is in Philippians. And we see in Philippians 1, verse 3 and 4, I thank my God in all remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you all, making my prayer with joy. And verse 5 says, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. And it just reminded me of how in the early church, there was this partnership in the gospel. There were these early believers, Paul, Peter, the disciples, the apostles, spreading the gospel, building these churches, and they were staying connected because that was the only other people they might know was these few individuals, and they partnered in the gospel. And we got to see that in our world. I think we think of Greenville, and there's all these big churches with hundreds of people in them, and we don't think of it as that partnership, the one-to-one, the few who know and believe the same things that we do, and it's truly a genuine community. But in Reno, there are 4 families who really, they might be the only other believers that they have close friendships with. You might have hundreds of other believers you have close friendships with, but they really right now out in Reno have each other. And it's this partnership in the gospel that they get to take every day. And we get to pray in joy and remembrance of them because of this partnership we have with them in the gospel. And it was really cool as a group of young adults to get to go out there and to experience that with them. And then to now be able to come back and know better how to pray for them. I hope this encouraged you to know how to better pray for them, and that you would enjoy taking that opportunity to pray for them. Paul says he joys in this remembrance. And this group of 4 families are able to encourage one another. They're not alone. And that really stuck out to me as we were there, that it's not just one family. Sometimes that is how God calls to ministry, but this is 4 families able to spend time together in the Word, able to share burdens. When one is discouraged, the other is able to lift up. And that encouraged me that just as we see in the early church, we have Paul and Silas, we have the Wesses, and I forget all of the names, the Gleisers and the Keltings. They're all together, and they're able to encourage each other. And I just want to encourage you all. At Morningside, there's hundreds of us, but we have this great opportunity to still be partners. We may not know everybody in the church, but we can know one and be a partner with them in the gospel. And then we can remember to pray and joy in the partnership in the gospel God is working out across our country.
Is that cool or what? Are you thankful? I'm thankful. Thanks to Pastor Crockett for reminding us. A great Thanksgiving devotional tonight. Reminder, we do not have a midweek service this week. If you don't have the opportunity, you may feel free to reach out to us and we can connect you with some great teaching moments, but we're very thankful for the challenge we've had tonight and thankful for the fellowship we get to share in just a moment. We're going to stand. I'm going to lead us in a word of prayer, blessing the food, and then we are going to sing one of the best songs about Christian fellowship that I know, and I haven't before put it in the context of fellowship with another church that you're partnering with, but what a great challenge and a reminder to us. Thanks to Kenneth and Drew and Lance and Morgan and Megan for their testimonies tonight, and to the team who went. Let's stand together, we'll have a word of prayer, and we'll sing, "Oh, how good it is when the family of God dwells together." Heavenly Father, thank you so much for what we've heard tonight. We thank you for the way that you have worked in this church family. Thank you for the way that you work in Pastor McClure's life, starting so long ago, during World War II. Thank you for the way that you have preserved our church family for over 60 years now. We thank you for what you did in his life all the way to the end, and we thank you for the rejoicing that his family gets to have even today. Thank you for the way that our church family is getting to partner now with this new church in Reno, for the blessings that you have given us just seeing them take flight and launch this year, for the partnership we get to have with continuing with Stephen West and his family, but also now Andy Gleiser and his family, James Tilson and his family, and the Kelting family as well. We thank you for what you are doing in them. Thank you for the testimonies that these young adults could share tonight of what you did in them and through them as they were there just a few weeks ago. We thank you for the pie that we get to enjoy together tonight. We do pray that you will bless our time of fellowship. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Let's sing together, "Oh, how good it is."